welcome to the podcast that must not be named. I am Melissa.
I am Luke.
And we are here discussing the final chapter of Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. The final chapter, which is number 37, called The Beginning, because it is.
It sure is called that.
It is. It is 18 pages long, which is 2.45% of the book. So let's find out what happened.
The morning after the third task, Harry meets with the Diggories, who thank him for returning their son, and refuse to take his winnings. Several days later, he, Ron, and Hermione meet with Hagrid, who tells them he made up with Madame Maxime, and they will be spending the summer together, doing work for Dumbledore. On the final night in Hogwarts, the Great Hall is decorated in black to mourn Cedric. During the dinner, Dumbledore announces that Cedric was in fact killed by Voldemort, and that Harry risked his life to bring Cedric's body back. He implores the students present to follow Cedric's example, to be a good, brave, and honest person, and to understand the true merit of the Triwizard Tournament. On the train back to London, Hermione reveals to Ron and Harry a beetle in a jar. She explains that she caught Rita Skeeter, and that's how she's been getting all of her information this year. She's an unregistered animagus. Malfoy and his cronies enter their cabin and threaten the Scooby crew. Harry, Ron, and Hermione attack them, but to Malfoy's chagrin, so do Fred and George, all hitting them with different curses, which end up with interesting results. The twins explain they've been trying all year to get Bagman to pay them their actual winnings, after he tried paying them off at the World Cup with Leprechaun gold. Bagman had bet a large sum on Harry to win outright against some goblins, but fled when Harry only tied for the win. At the end of the train ride, before heading to the platform, Harry pulls the twins aside and gives them his winnings, telling them that the world is definitely going to need jokes, but to make sure to buy Ron a new set of dress robes.
Alrighty there, Luke. Can you go ahead and let us know, were there any new characters that appeared in this ultimate chapter?
There were not any new characters, but we did have the first name given of a character that we have met, and that was Olympe. Olympe Maxime. Madame Maxime to you, of course.
Well, yes, because we would be students.
Right, exactly.
Theoretically.
And there's something else that I'd rather have you say it instead of me.
So apparently we missed a mention in the last chapter when Dumbledore was rounding up the old crowd. We missed a mention of an Arabella Fig, whoever she is. So thank you to Benji for kindly pointing this out to us in our Slack channel.
Nice job, Benj. But you were incorrect about Mundungus Fletcher. He has been mentioned before, twice.
That's really funny and true. Okay, here we go. Location introductions. Did we go anywhere new?
No, I don't think so. We've been pretty much there were several times where it didn't really say where they were. They were just kind of around the castle, just kind of
hanging out,
taking it easy, if you will.
Take it easy. Nope, not singing. Pre-recording, I've already been singing, so who knows how many times I might burst into song tonight. Okay, this being my last night of summer vacation, technically, so it's all right. We do have one magicabulary term.
We did. Appeared. You wanna say what it was?
I don't, because you know me and pronouncing weird words.
It is the Furnunculus curse. Furnunculus.
Furnunculus. That sounds like an inoculation you would get.
Yeah, it didn't turn out too well when mixed with a Jellylegs curse, which I think we'll touch on in a little bit.
Yeah, that sounds good. You know what else we had?
An illustration?
An illustration. A really beautiful illustration.
Oh, a really beautiful.
It was. It was the most beautifulest bug ever. She looks so much better as a bug.
It's a good-looking bug, I guess.
I particularly like the detail around the eyes.
Yeah, you can...
It's a bit spotty, much like a spotted pair of glasses would be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think the detail is nice, and there's some nice shading going on to show kind of the texture of the beetle too, like along its left wing there. Or I guess its right wing left in the picture, and it's chilling on a nice leaf. You know, good stuff.
I think it is a very great illustration for something that occurs towards the end of this chapter. So this chapter really starts off with Harry sort of in a fog, sort of just sort of living his way through the last few weeks as opposed to experiencing it. There was one moment that kind of stood out, and you had a note about that. Do you want to go ahead and jump in with that one?
Sure. Yeah. So pretty close to the beginning of this chapter, there's, I don't know, I think a really nice moment between Harry and Cedric's parents, and it's tough, right? It's a tough thing for him to have to go through, especially with everything that he's been through. But he does it because it's the right thing to do, and he even says, the worst, perhaps the recollections he did have were very painful. The worst, perhaps, was meeting the Diggories that took place the following morning. So this is just the next day. This is the next day after he wakes up, right? There's no time. I mean, because they're still at the castle. They're probably not hanging out for too long. So the next morning, they come in and see him, and I'm sure Dumbledore had to give some kind of permission for that to happen. I'm sure they probably approached Dumbledore to ask if they could talk to him one way or the other. They wouldn't. I don't assume that they would just barge in on him and force this, because it's hard on them too. But it really was a nice moment between them. It says they did not blame him for what had happened. On the contrary, both thanked him for returning Cedric's body to them. Like we said, that was a really good moment when that happened. Mr. Diggory sobbed through most of the interview. Mrs. Diggory's grief seemed to be beyond tears. They go on, and Harry just tries to give them the prize money, and I think that's a pretty good move on his part. One, he really doesn't need it. Two, Cedric, I think we kind of already discussed, technically kind of won, would have won if Harry wasn't being noble and if Cedric hadn't forced the issue. I think you could say Cedric kind of won. But they turn it down. And so it was one of those, no, I'll pay for the bill. No, I'll pay for the bill kind of things. But it was a nice moment for Harry, I thought.
I think it was good closure for both of them. I mean, especially early on when there was so much animosity with Mr. Diggory and Harry way back on Stoat's Head Hill, and then later when he meets them the morning of the tournament, or of the third task, when Mr. Diggory kind of gives him some grief for not correcting the stories that have been printed about him that miss Cedric. So I think this is a nice way of them sort of putting all of that behind them and finding a way to bond because of the grief, that the rest of it doesn't matter because they both understand how much the other has lost.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, that's what I'm going with. All right, then once we do that really nice moment, right? Harry basically talks about, I hung out with my friends.
Right.
That's what I did. Just a quick sidebar. As he's hanging out with his friends, chess alert. Ron plays chess against Hermione.
Mark that on the board, the whiteboard over here, that we've got the tally going.
Right? I think it's 4. It's it might be more than that because of book 1, but it's really only maybe 2 or 3 outside.
Post book 1, I think this is the third mention since.
I would say third.
I think it's been 1 per book offhand.
Yeah. And I really feel like we need to do some sort of backtracking on that just to double check.
I know we did at the end of book 1. We went through and marked all of them. Maybe at the end of book here, we can, in one of our unrestricted sections, we can open that tally markup again just to check it and give a true accounting.
I really like that. Okay, so one assumes Ron wins.
Well, yeah. He plays the best game of chess that Hogwarts has seen in quite a long time.
But Hermione's really smart. Maybe she studied. I mean, it's been 3 years. Anyway, my point being, I would like to know who wins the chess game. But then eventually, because of all of the defense against the dark arts classes they don't have anymore, lack of a teacher, they go hang out with Hagrid.
Right before that, there is a mention while they're just hanging out that Mrs. Weasley had asked Dumbledore if Harry could go straight to the Burrow this summer. But we learned that Dumbledore wants Harry to go back to the Dursleys at first, at least. And Harry's, frustrated by this. And then Ron just says, Dumbledore said he's got his reasons. And I suppose we've got to trust him, haven't we? And I think that's a pretty good way of letting Harry know that, we know it kind of sucks, but there's got to be a reason. I don't think he'd unnecessarily put you in a frustrating place. But at least Mrs. Weasley tried, right? That's a nice moment for them too.
It's a really nice gesture. I mean, I think she would adopt Harry if the opportunity, but it doesn't sound like Dumbledore is really going to allow that, is what it seems like.
Right. Yeah, at this point, it seems like that's not in the cards.
Not yet. Maybe someday. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
We have 3 books to go.
We've got time, and they just get longer. Well, next
and
book
then
does.
Shorter.
Yeah,
and then
longer again. Well, that's not entirely true. We have 2 very short books after this book that we have to talk about.
Oh, yeah. We were going to do this. Okay, anyway, hi. Yes, we are. Stay tuned. So they're at Hagrid's next, right?
Right.
And Hagrid really starts talking about, he knew that Voldemort would never come back, or would have come back. Everybody else like, oh, he's dead. He was like, I always knew he'd be back, right? I believe Hagrid, because way back in book 1, when he starts telling Harry about Voldemort and how people say he died, he goes, people say he died. Codswallop, in my opinion. There wasn't enough human in him left to die, is what he says way back in book 1. So now with Hagrid saying, like, I knew this, we have proof. He did. He's not just like blowing smoke, right? He really truly believed Voldemort would be back. And so I really like that Hagrid kind of wins, right? I didn't say I told you so, but I told you so.
I've been saying it for years.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, he's absolutely true. I mean, I think if I remember correctly, he also kind of states that Dumbledore didn't think that he was truly gone, and that was good enough for him. But maybe I'm confusing that a little bit with other things that he just trusts Dumbledore, which is fine. But either way, I mean, yeah, he's right. He knew that he was just biding his time, and we learned that at the end of book 1. He was still just around. But this is even further. Good on you, Hagrid. Like at least you aren't fudging it up here.
No, he's accurate.
Mm-hmm.
Good job. I only have one other comment about like the scene in Hagrid's hut. So if you've got anything else before that, when it comes to being with Hagrid,
go for it. It's a nice scene all around. I think.
How is there still a Scroot left alive?
Well, we knew that they were down to 2 towards the end of the school year, right? And then I think Cedric says that he ran across the Scroots, Hagrid's Scroots, in the maze. So I'm assuming both of them were hanging out in the maze. I mean, why wouldn't there be any Scroots left? You think they're just putting them down after the maze? That's inhumane.
I didn't realize they had survived the maze.
Well, we know that Cedric had run away from them. He had been burnt or almost burnt, and he frantically ran into Harry right there.
All right, I guess. I just really hate them. And I kind of need them to just be dead.
You want to squash the lot?
I want somebody else to squash the lot.
Yeah.
I want to direct the squashing, but not actually do it myself.
I know you do.
Okay, so then we kind of go to the leaving feast.
Mm-hmm.
There's some thoughts on the leaving feast. I have like peripheral thoughts, and then of course like the big speech, right? So peripherally, if you will, like not really that big of a deal or part of the story, but just a pondering I had is which house would have won?
Yeah, right. We don't really know.
I mean, maybe this was Ravenclaw's year, right? And they're like, woohoo, we're gonna get it because we've earned all these points. Or even better, Hufflepuff, because they had Cedric to earn them all these and then nothing. I mean, of course, Harry probably would have gotten 100,000 points for, surviving the Dark Lord or whatever randomness they come up with for him. But, I mean, there was not even a mention of like, oh, we would have been decorated in Ravenclaw's colors because they won the house. Like, it's not even like they won it and we just are, being somber. They just didn't award it.
So I have the solution to your problem here.
Okay.
The reason that this happens, you remember back early chapter 14-ish or so, somewhere around there, where they're talking about the Goblet of Fire and the Triwizard Tournament being announced, and they canceled the Quidditch season. What you don't realize is they also canceled the House Cup season because of all of the extra work that these teachers had to do for the Triwizard Tournament. Like 3 times in the year.
See, now, on top of like all of these years of having absolutely no sort of curriculum oversight, and then you cancel like the team spirit, like bonding activities that kids do because of Quidditch, you're also taking away the universal behavior system.
Incentivized behavior guidance system.
Yeah, I mean, that's like a tier 1 level, universal, everybody gets it behavioral system that they're completely throwing out the window. I'm telling you.
That's my theory on why there isn't a House Cup awarded.
You know, I really think some school reforms might be useful.
Well, we'll see. You know,
you never know.
You never know. There needs to be some oversight here at the school, is what we're saying.
Or at least like a leadership team who has some sort of like, let's talk about this. Somebody's got to have a perspective and challenge.
Yeah, third-party audits.
Not even third party. It can be other teachers, but like Dumbledore is unilaterally deciding things.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody just needs to have like some, well, are you sure? Let's get rid of that. Like
that's the thing we need to lose.
Some unintended consequences might be.
Not like Snape. That's maybe some fat we can cut off the budget.
Maybe we need to have a better interview process.
Or an interview process. Oh. Anyway, but I think we've solved that problem of why there was no House Cup awarded. Before we get to the big speech, I have a thought as well. It says Madame Maxime was still there. She was sitting next to Hagrid. Harry's kind of looking up at the front table, and he sees that the real Mad-Eye Moody's there. Karkaroff's seat is empty. A couple other things going on. Moody is even more twitchy and jumpy, which is completely reasonable.
Yep. I'm just surprised he's still at Hogwarts.
I'm surprised he wasn't just like, see ya. Oh, but it says they were talking quietly together, talking about Maxime and Hagrid. Further along the table, sitting next to Professor McGonagall was Snape. His eyes lingered on Harry for a moment as Harry looked at him. His expression was difficult to read. He looked as sour and unpleasant as ever. Harry continued to watch him long after Snape had looked away. What was it Snape had done on Dumbledore's orders the night that Voldemort had returned? Either way, Snape's back. You know, we're a month later, I think is what it said.
Well, no, it said Harry, even a month later, Harry can never remember the next few days.
Oh, yeah. So this still could be within that next few days, and a month later he can't recollect everything. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, either way, Snape's back, so whatever his... well, they talk about the classes and things, how they had time off. And anyway, some time has passed, but Snape is back. Any thoughts on what he may have done, or anything at all?
One assumes it has to do with the fact that he has a dark mark, right? Like, that's what I think. I think it's got to have something to do with Voldemort. I don't know what that thing is, but whatever it is, he's got a backstage pass, so maybe he's using that.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty fair assumption. So that's really all I have until Dumbledore's big speech thing here.
Okay, so the only comment I have right now on Dumbledore's big speech, I mean, it's big, it's huge, it's momentous. I have nothing to say until I get to my favorite line, because there's like 17 parts of it that I love.
Yeah. Spoiler, in the favorite line box in our workbook, Melissa just says, so many choices in all caps and 4 exclamation points. And then there's, it looks like 5 different lines that almost all look like they come from Dumbledore's speech here. So we can revisit there where you're essentially going to read the whole thing to us, and that's fine. But I just really want to give Dumbledore props on everything he does here. It is super class and super well done. But we'll get back to that.
Okay, yeah, we're not skipping. We're
teasing. We're teasing.
There you go. Okay, so the leaving feast ends with apparently somebody having some sort of speech or something. Whatever. Then we leave.
Right? Insert speech here.
Cut. Paste. Over there. Then we have like the front door goodbye scene. I don't know. They're all standing out in the courtyard. I'm going to go. It's not time to go. I'm going to miss my friends, except we're all going to be on a train together for the next 8 hours or whatever. Okay. There's like a really nice moment with Harry and Fleur and Harry and Krum.
Yep, I agree.
And both of them also mention Cedric, especially Krum. Krum's like, he was always very nice to me. it's really like a positive. There's not a lot of positives at the end of this book. I have to tell you, I just remember the first time I read this book, I felt crushed. Right? Like having Cedric die and then that speech of Dumbledore's, and I was just like, oh, right? Like it's so heavy because you do not see this coming. The last few chapters of this book, it's so different. It takes it. This really is a beginning of a whole new story. But this moment where Harry has these very solid relationships, and not just like, oh, we made friends at summer camp, but like deep adult, we've been through something that no one else knows what this is like
we've been in the thick of it together.
Or even like if you've climbed Mount Everest, right? There's not many people who've really climbed Mount Everest. That's a very limited, exclusive club. And it doesn't matter who you are. If you're in the club, like that alone is worthy. And so they are an exclusive club because they're the only ones who've ever done it. And it really sort of fulfills the original goal of the Triwizard Tournament. That was the point, was to create these massive bonds.
Yeah. I mean, there are some things you can't share without ending up liking each other, and going through the Triwizard Tournament together, like a 12-foot mountain troll, is one of them. So,
thanks now.
Yeah. So I agree. It's nice that Harry was able to hold his own and gain the respect of two people that, again, if we remember back to chapter 17, when the three champions, how small and diminutive he felt in that chapter, and he lived up to it. I mean, yeah, it was odd and a fluke and shouldn't have happened that he was put in there, but this whole book, he's held his own and gained the respect of his peers. In this case, he became their peer in their eyes, and I think that's really important for him. And these are two pretty solid, like, hey, it was nice to get to know you, you're a good challenger. And I really like that after Krum takes Hermione off to say goodbye and fraternize, whatever, and fill in the blanks there however you want. And Ron's like, well, you have to hurry up because you're gonna miss the train, like, oh, don't waste all this time. But right after that, I really love the scene of Ron's internal struggle, and as soon as he it says Hermione turned away, or no, sorry, right before that, Krum, have you got a new headmaster yet? Said Harry. Krum shrugged. He held out his hand as Fleur had done, shook Harry's hand, and then Ron's. Ron looked as though he was suffering some sort of painful internal struggle. Krum had already started walking away when Ron burst out, "Can I have your autograph?" It's so funny, and shout out to the movie just in general. Like I can just imagine, like I don't remember if this actually happens in the movie, but I see Rupert Grint doing this, like, yes, just in real life almost.
Yes, I do. Yes, there's a reason he was cast as Ron Weasley.
Great,
and this
great
moment
Ron.
Is one of them.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. These are the kinds of moments he owns.
Hermione turned away, smiling at the horseless carriages that were now trundling toward them up the drive, as Krum, looking surprised but gratified, signed a fragment of parchment for Ron.
So awesome.
Yeah, great scene.
So awesome. So then we ride on a train. Riding on a train. I am really glad that Harry finally has some sort of release that happened. He says it's because of Dumbledore's speech that we put over here, but because of Dumbledore's speech, he felt like free to talk about. But I also think leaving Hogwarts, finally getting out of that environment, probably helped too. Not that Hogwarts is bad, but sometimes like distance is helpful. Like now that I'm not in the space where I've been holding on to all of this, I can start to let some of it go too. I'm so glad he finally has gotten the chance to talk through this with Ron and Hermione. Mm-hmm. That's how they spend their time, because they've been supportive without being questioning, and them giving him that space. He's made it around to get to talk to them now, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's important for their relationship, because who else could he possibly talk about this with? And it's only fair to them for everything that they've done to help him all year. Ron had his time of that whole thing, but we've discussed that. Reasonable from both sides, I think. But they got through it, and they still worked together through everything else. And one thing about this train ride that I also find very interesting is it specifically states that the weather could not have been more different on the journey back to King's Cross than it had been on their way to Hogwarts the previous September. There wasn't a single cloud in the sky. I think that's really odd. It's almost like it takes the current climate in Harry's story and flips it on its head. Like on the way there really wasn't that much craziness going on at all. You know, like it was probably one of the most calm periods. Like there are some big things going on in the behind the scenes that didn't necessarily directly affect Harry at the moment.
It wasn't Harry-centric craziness.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was like when he was just kind of hanging out, being a kid for like the first time. And it was awesome. And that was a really nasty, rainy day. If you look at like the symbolism of it, and then you just completely mirror that, when you're in this pretty dire turmoil-based political climate, whatever you want to call it, it's the brightest day. Like it is just like so nice out. It just, I don't know. I think there's a weird dichotomy that she does here. And the fact that she calls it out specifically makes me think that was intentional for a reason.
Yes, I agree. I like your reasoning behind why you think it happened. I'm going with it. I say that's true. I've decided.
I like it.
All right. So then our next big reveal, by the way, this book is so good at the reveal. There's more like big reveals. And so this is not like a Barty Crouch Jr. level reveal, but it's a pretty big one. Rita Skeeter is an animagus.
Right.
An unregistered bug. That was the best.
I thought that was a pretty slick way of JK being able to have that leak of information done. You know, again, a lot of, like you said, the reveals in this are so good because one, obviously the book is almost twice as long as any of the other books individually. Like that's certainly a factor. There's more time to develop these things and set groundwork and you're not rushing through everything. But also, in general, high percentage of this is done so tidily. It's so tidy and neat. And it just comes together without a hitch for the most part. I mean, there's a couple slip-ups potentially, but in general...
It's very different like Book 2. Book 2 had a lot of like, oh, it just so happened. But this one, everything fits, even the offstage stuff.
Right. And again, not all of it is Harry-centric, which I think makes it feel so much deeper. And obviously, it's a deeper book just by pages. Like, we get that. But like, it seems like there's a lot more to the process of how it came together because it's so much more well done, I think. And I think that is a big part of, I think a big factor to that is JK seriously had a lot more room to work it in, so it didn't have to feel rushed. You didn't have, editor cutting things out that, well, now I have to figure out a briefer way to make this happen. And it's just, oh, famous Harry Potter, this is what happens. Like, I'm not trying to bash on the earlier books, but it's just
it's not
better.
Hagrid accidentally saying things over and over and over again.
Right. And that's, I think, a disservice to characters like Hagrid. Like I think it hurts his character in book 1, but like here, he's amazing.
Yep. Nope.
And there's 8 other things in the background that are causing things that all feel natural for their own motivations and not, oh, Hagrid's a big dumb oaf.
No, the adults get to be adults with real big problems and huge adult-sized flaws.
Laws, motivations, yeah. I mean, desires, like all of it comes into play and feels good.
Yep. However, there is a dark side to the Rita Skeeter reveal. Really cool plot twist. Hermione has a dark streak. Like, in no way am I judging her, because man, props to that girl, because that was amazing. But she kidnapped and trapped a human for a month or a few weeks or whatever. Like, she kidnapped her and held her against her will. Like, that's pretty dark and twisty, Hermione. I'm really impressed. Not judging. No judgment. I think it's awesome. But it's definitely like, it's not just a bug in a cage. That's a person.
Right. And it's not like she's holding her there via social blackmail. It's not like, oh, if you escape, I'm going to release this information and whatever. It's, no, you physically cannot leave. There's an unbreakable charm in this. And if you untransform, you're going to die. Like, that's pretty harsh. Like, I agree with you and Hermione's sentiment here. Rita's a pretty awful person. We've grown to know that.
And we need drastic measures.
But maybe, I don't know, this could be turning down a dark path for one of our favorite heroines.
You know what? It was effective.
It was absolutely effective. It's a critical hit.
And I'm not saying it's entirely legal.
I'm saying she could probably go to Azkaban for it, honestly.
But what I am saying, I'm not saying, but what I am saying is that if Hermione goes down, she's taking Rita with her.
Oh yeah, because honestly,
a blackmail.
Right, she's holding the information that would send Rita to jail. Absolutely. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt in that. So, yeah, I think that's fair.
Yep. All right. So then the next event, if you will, on the train comes with a few mixed curses.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, they don't go so well together.
Right. So this is when Snape and people that don't. I didn't mean Snape. Malfoy and his friends that don't talk enter and just have snide remarks and start bashing on, well, the Mudbloods are going to get killed next. And, he starts saying Cedric was the first one. Like, at that point, they just say, that's enough of you. And, yeah.
And right now, Harry is the boy who gave zero cares to anything because, like, I just dueled Voldemort and won. You are nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to waste my time. Poof. Done. And I think all of his friends are like, with ya, easy. What's the word I'm looking for? The word in my head is sequential, but it's non-essential. That's not it either. But it's along those lines of like, I'm just not even going to think about you. That's all I got.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty interesting just on a magical mechanic and magical theory side of things that, curses mix, and it's not just, oh, this happens to you and this happens to you. It's no, they interact, and that, I think, opens up new levels of, oh no, like, what can happen? And it kind of makes me think of, we'll get to that later. That's a topic for another day. It's
okay.
I just find it interesting, so I'm glad you pointed that
out. So I have kind of one more big thought, because this comes with the twins as they enter in, having helped curse.
My final thought goes with the twins too. I'll let you go first.
Okay. My first one is that they give us yet another reveal.
Right?
Bagman has a gambling problem.
Right. That was kind of the red herring of, why is he helping? Oh, he's probably harmless. Oh, he was potentially working with the Death Eaters. Oh, but he's probably harmless because he's an idiot. And so, like, we have this intertwining. It very much feels like Percy in book 2. Like, it's probably not a thing, but there's like just enough that the book wants you to pick up on him being an issue. And then again, it just comes back to, well, this is a real life adult with real life adult problems and real life adult motivations that just happen to be influencing the story from a tertiary position. And it makes it seem sinister, but it's really just his own problems that he's trying to work with.
He's just like a terrible adult. I don't mean terrible like Snape. Like, he's just bad at it. Like he's bad at adulting. He's bad at being a human. He's bad at managing himself.
He's an ex-athlete. He didn't get paid to be smart.
An addict. It's a disease. Kind of. I mean, really.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's all about mine. What do you got on the twins?
So following that right up, we learn that, through that revelation that the twins never received their money from him. It was Bagman that they were potentially blackmailing to get their money because he had paid them in leprechaun gold, which again was a nice throwback to that idea. And we find out that they just aren't going to get their money, which is fine. So they've lost all of their savings. And after Ron and Hermione get off the train, Harry calls out to the twins and he says, hey, wait just a minute. And he gives them the prize money. And again, like, this is the second time this chapter Harry's tried to give it away. And he fundamentally will not let it go a third time because he doesn't need it at all. I mean, he has no use for it. It's just going to go on top of a huge heap. And I think he makes a tremendous point here of, listen, if you don't take it, I'm throwing it down the drain. I don't want it and I don't need it, but I could do with a few laughs. We could all do with a few laughs. I've got a feeling we're going to need them more than usual before long. Like, that's a pretty nice bright coloration on, like you pointed out, this is a fairly dour and down ending to one of these books. It's not all sunshine and rainbows and cherry covered, sundaes, and there's some real big stuff going on, and Harry's maturity that I think comes out through this is really what I take away from it. And the fact that he forces them to take it, I think is really good, because they're going to keep pulling the, like, no, absolutely not. Like, they don't want it. But I think Harry does the right thing here.
But it's so mature in such a kid way, because no real adult would say, here, let me give you basically, what do you think? 10 grand, 50 grand, 25 grand, whatever. And say, yeah, go open a joke shop. Like, no adult would do that. Not saying that anything wrong. We're just more boring than that. So there's enough of the childhood wonder and mystery and like things can still be good in Harry to be able to just do that.
Yeah.
It's a really nice balance.
It is a nice balance. And because, yeah, it shows his maturity in making it happen. But like you said, it's a bit of a frivolous thing. But like the intent behind why it's a frivolous thing, I think holds a strong standard either way.
I am not disagreeing with you.
Yeah, right.
I'm just saying that there's still, like, I'm glad there's such a youthful tone to it.
Right. Absolutely. It's not like, oh, go open up an investing company.
Right. You know what you should do?
You should go out and get some stocks and bonds. That would be a good time, honestly, to get in. Mid 90s, that'd be a really good time to get in on Apple.
Yeah, it's great.
There's a small company out there called Berkshire Hathaway. If you can go out and just collect a few of those stocks, you'll be great.
Have you heard something about the Google?
About the Joogs? So that's really all I have for general notes.
Same. Let's move on. Okay, Lucifer, I believe you get the last set of 5 burning questions for this book.
I sure do. Question number 1. When Harry was looking up at the main table, the head table at the final feast there, he notices that Karkaroff's chair was empty. Do you think that Karkaroff will truly escape Lord Voldemort?
Does anyone? Because way back in book 1, Hagrid, see, it's all about the good Hagrid, book 1 quotes. Hagrid says, if Voldemort decides to kill you, you don't live, right? That was like, once he makes up his mind, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
You're dead. I'm pretty sure if Voldemort wants to get Karkaroff, he's gonna get Karkaroff.
I mean,
it's a matter of, is it worth his time? Like, it might not be something he does right away because maybe he has other plans, but eventually, if Voldemort is successful in like whatever he's doing, that is not a string he's gonna let go.
Yeah, but we've also consistently seen Voldemort unsuccessfully take out Harry multiple times since then.
But can't we all agree that Harry is already better than Karkaroff? I mean,
I know.
Apples here.
I'm just saying his success rate has dropped significantly since that statement was made by Hagrid. But I think you're onto something there. Question number 2. What would you have done with the prize money if you were Harry?
Ooh, if I was Harry, or if Melissa, won it?
If you were Harry, under all the same circumstances, you wake up with this money, and what are you doing with it?
My heart would want it to go to Weasley's. In general, it would be Weasley money because I don't need it. I feel too much guilt attached to it. Who do I know that can use it? I don't know if I would have done the twins because I am not that quick on my feet. So I might have missed that one, but I maybe would have talked to Mr. and Mrs. Weasley and been like, look, I can't have this. And and here's the thing. They probably wouldn't have used it. They probably would have saved it for him for later. And like, oh, we'll make the down payment on your first house or pay for your wedding or send on a vacation when you grad. Like,
right.
But I could see him thinking he was helping them and them accepting the help because they knew he needed to give it, but them not actually using it.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. I agree with you. That's where my mind would go to first, is helping the Weasleys in any form. And taking your idea, understanding that they probably wouldn't use it, what they should do, here's the adult thing, is take that and invest it in some minor something. Just keep it in a bank. Keep it in a bank that has interest, and they can have the interest.
There you go.
See, that's mutually beneficial, that Harry is still actually helping them. They're accepting his help and not turning him away on that, which, I mean, that's the sentiment would be good of the Weasleys, but it's also kind of like a slap in Harry's face for them not to benefit from it a little bit. So I think that would be a decent middle ground.
So yeah, I agree. Let's invest and live off the interest. Maybe not live off, but like use the interest.
Yeah. I think that'd be beneficial and good on all accounts. Question number 3. Is it surprising to you that no one blinks an eye at the many of the Slytherins at the Slytherin table remaining seated during Albus's toasts to Cedric and Harry? Like, there's no... do you see what I'm going with? Like, no one has an issue with that? Like, smacks them on the back of the head?
And I don't think it's that they don't get up during Cedric. I think it's that they don't get up during Harry's toast. I think it's specifically...
That's what it starts with, or that's the second part that my line specifically was referenced to, but I believe they're referenced in the Cedric part too.
No, it says, I would like you all please to stand and raise your glasses to Cedric Diggory. They did it, all of them. The benches scraping as everyone in the hall stood and raised their goblets and echoed in one loud, low, rumbling voice, Cedric Diggory.
Okay. All right.
And then there was, Harry caught a glimpse of Cho through the crowd. There were tears pouring down silently down her face. He looked down at the table as they all sat down again. So the Slytherins stood for Cedric. They did not stand for Harry Potter.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That changes the nature of my question a little bit, I guess. Like, for the Cedric thing, that's what really would have, I think, been a bit much. Like, come on. Like,
yeah.
But, I don't know. I guess question still stands. Are you surprised that no one bats an eye at that?
Here's what's interesting. Okay, so I think 2 parts. I think if they hadn't stood for Cedric, they would have gotten called out on it right away. That would have been like, and I think that's why they did it, whether they agreed with it or not. Like, this was an expectation. Dumbledore specifically said, I wish you all to stand with me, right? Use those words. Now, when it came to Harry Potter, it says, Harry Potter managed to escape Lord Voldemort, said Dumbledore. He risked his own life to return Cedric's body to Hogwarts. He showed, in every respect, the sort of bravery that few wizards had ever shown in facing Lord Voldemort, and for this, I honor him. Okay? Dumbledore turned gravely to Harry and raised his goblet once more. Nearly everyone in the Great Hall followed suit. They murmured his name as they had Cedric's and drank to him. But through a gap in the standing figures, that's the first time that it's mentioned that anyone stood. Harry saw Malfoy, Crabbe, Goyle, and many of the other Slytherins had remained defiantly in their seats, the goblets untouched. So first, nobody said they had to stand. It was more, it's like at the end of a show, like at the end of a theater show where you give an ovation, but not everybody does because not everybody necessarily thinks it was the best show. You don't, like, a standing ovation is not a requirement. That's kind of how I look at that. And then, like, they don't have to. Dumbledore didn't specifically say, let's all honor him.
They're not obligated to.
I honor him. So, yeah, I am not surprised they didn't. They're not defying a direct order or command or even strongly worded suggestion from their headmaster. I'm sure, and it says Dumbledore, who after all possessed no magical eye, did not see them.
Right.
I'm sure McGonagall did, or somebody. It'll be noted later, but it's not necessarily like an out-and-out defiance of a direction.
Yeah, and like I said, when I came up with the question, I was more coloring it with the idea that they also kind of were stingy on the Cedric side, which I just missed that in my note-taking today. But either way, good answer.
I mean, it's a good question because, don't be jerks, but too late.
Thanks, Melissa. I appreciate you and when you give me credit for a good question.
That's a good question.
Question number 4. What did Dumbledore ask Hagrid to do? And I guess by proxy, Maxime is what it sounds like too.
Raise a farm of Scroots.
I mean, that he's shown a proclivity for it, right?
Sure. I don't know. Go guard Azkaban.
Maybe they're gonna go give the. Oh, I can't say that line. That's next book. Never mind.
Oh, next book. I'm so excited.
Oh, another teaser. What was the line? What was the line? Yeah, no. Gotta wait for Dudley Demented for that one. Question number 5. Could there be anything to Hermione's kissing Harry on the cheek? She did something she had never done before and kissed Harry on the cheek.
Nope.
Nope. Just.
She's got a dude. She's got Victor. I have never seen anything between the two of them. I got nothing. So I saw your question. I'm like, I don't know. No. Why'd you ask? You?
No, I mean, it's just the fact that it stands out to Harry is she had done something she had never done before. Does she kiss Ron on the cheek? Is there some specific reason Harry gets it? I mean, I don't know. The fact that it stands out to Harry was the reason I asked the question.
Because he's a boy and doesn't understand girls. I think she's just doing it to be friendly. And it could be kind of a British thing, but especially as you get older, right? Maybe it's more of that.
Could be.
I don't know.
Could be.
I don't know.
Hormones,
I have no idea.
You know.
Oh, tell me about it, man. Ooh, teenagers. Ooh, now it's time for one of my favorite parts, the chapter superlatives. Here we go. Luke, what was your favorite line?
My favorite line comes from a really solid Hagrid scene that we have there. He's talking about, Dumbledore told me what you did, Harry, and wow, you did just like what your dad would do. And he also is talking about, because again, where we're left at the end of last chapter is one of the most dire, huge world circumstances we've had in these books since the Dark Lord fell the first time, right? I mean, we're essentially back there in some form. So this is the beginning of a new ball game. And Hagrid, I think, comes up with one of the best lines, in my opinion, that we've had in general. And it says, "No good sitting worrying about it," he said. "What's coming will come, and we'll meet it when it does." I think that's a very, very strong sentiment that anyone can use. And try not to worry so much. Deal with it when it comes.
That was such a good line that Harry repeated it as the last sentence of the book.
Did he?
Yes, it says, as Hagrid had said, what would come, and he would meet it when it did.
Mm-hmm. And also reminds me of a similar, this is going to be a long time till we get there, so I'll just reference it here, Fantastic Beasts, Newt Scamander line of, "I don't worry, that just means you suffer twice." So.
Oh, half the time I find that the worrying is way more suffering than the living through it.
You suffer twice either way. Not equal amounts, just in general.
True. That's true.
I live by that.
Here we go. My favorite 10 pages.
All right, go ahead and have a speech.
I'm going to give the abridged version of the Dumbledore speech because, in all honesty, you've already said one of my favorite lines. It's Harry yelling at the twins, I'm going to throw this down the drain, and we could do with a few more laughs.
Mm-hmm. Great line.
That one.
Great scene. Yep.
I appreciate that you said it earlier. It's been out there. It wasn't going to be my top favorite anyway, and it's not the speech. So
I figured I was safe dropping that one earlier.
It is safe. Okay. Here we go. The first of my favorite parts of the speech is just the one sentence. Cedric Diggory was murdered by Lord Voldemort.
Blunt.
To the point, straight up. I am not going to sugarcoat this for you. I'm not going to use nice little kid words. I'm going to be like the doctor who actually has to tell you, he has to use the word, your family member died, to make it sink in. He was murdered by Voldemort, not by he who must not be named, not
he passed away of natural causes. He went on to a better place. He's going to live at the farm. That's
right. None of that.
Right.
This is exactly what happened. Bam. So
he was such a spare.
Taking my moment for Cedric Diggory. Wand in the air. Okay. I really appreciate that level of trust in the students. This is what you need to know. That's step one. Okay. Literally 2 sentences later is this paragraph. This is the next favorite part, where Cedric then says, or not Cedric, Dumbledore then says, the Ministry of Magic does not wish me to tell you this, It is possible that some of your parents will be horrified that I have done so, either because they will not believe that Lord Voldemort has returned, or because they think I should not tell you so young as you are. It is my belief, however, that the truth is generally preferable to lies, and that any attempt to pretend that Cedric died as the result of an accident or some sort of blunder of his own is an insult to his memory.
Mm-hmm.
The big parts of there are the truth is generally preferable to lies, and it would be an insult to his memory.
Yep. If I had to take one takeaway from the entire speech, that is the section that stands out to me most. That's the one that hits me the truest. Mm-hmm. But there's still plenty of meat on this bone. Please continue.
Yeah. Okay, so then the next part that kind of gets me is when he looks at the guests in the hall, and everybody is kind of like, oh man, we're going to get it because we don't belong here, right? And he says, like, he goes on about every guest in this hall will be welcome, and, you know, like, we are only, you know, like, you will always be welcome here. I say to you all, once again, in the light of Lord Voldemort's return, we are only as strong as we are united, as weak as we are divided. I think that's a really powerful sentiment, that we are better together, that there are lots of differences. We come from a lot of backgrounds. We have a lot of different opinions, but we are stronger if we are together. We do better when we are together. Basically saying, get on board because we need to do this together, right? It's the High School Musical song. We're all in this together. Like, I told you singing, but it's true. Yes? No? Thoughts?
Yeah,
or should I move on to-
absolutely. I'm trying to... Thomas Paine is who just the forefathers of the United States in general. Like, that just very much rings true with that sentiment. I mean, that's one of the main things that the United States of America hangs in their banners, right? That's part of the social story of why we were formed the way that we were. And so that was, I was like, I'm pretty sure it's Thomas Paine, but I wanted to get it right. The author of Common Sense, but
yeah, that's what I said. Common Sense.
Yep. So
thank you to the Schuyler Sisters song from Hamilton for letting me know that reference.
Yeah, I have not seen Hamilton yet. I've seen the history or the Westeros version.
I haven't seen it, but I have the entire musical memorized. So there's that. Okay. But honestly, my very favorite line is the last paragraph. The very last paragraph of this, because it ends in a quote. There is no, they all left the, like, we don't end the feast with anybody leaving. It ends with just this thought, and then there's a blink, and you just hang. And it says, remember, Cedric, remember, if the time should come when you have to make a choice between what is right and what is easy, remember what happened to a boy who was good and kind and brave because he strayed across the path of Lord Voldemort. Remember Cedric Diggory. That was that moment of like, oh, because this was our first real big like loss in the series. That paragraph still gets me like that every time I read it. Even just now reading it without having read anything else around it.
A little verklempt.
Yeah.
A touch. It's good. It's a great wrap up to, I think it was totally worth going through all of these parts like you did, because this is, at the end of all of these books, I think we run into, Dumbledore has to tell us what we know, right? And give us the big lessons learned, the morals of the story, if you will. But I don't know, like, this is a slightly different take on that. It's not, let me help you understand how this all happened. We had that, we had that last book. This is, and now let's talk about the ramifications of those things that happened. And there's true emotional weight that go into this, and it just, again, wraps it up so nicely. And it's a good Dumbledorian effort.
It is. Good job, Dumbledore. All right. So let's move on to the next part, and let's talk about who was your chapter MVP.
It's Dumbledore. I mean, the speech is really, really well done. Hits on all the points he needs to. The candidness that he shows to the student body, I think, is, incredible. Typically those are the things that would be swept underneath the rug. You wouldn't give that information to all the students, and the fact that he trusts them and knows that they're better off having the truth of what's going on to mentally and emotionally prepare for whatever this turns into. It's good on him. Plus all of the other Cedric stuff and the Harry stuff. I mean, we've touched on that well enough, but I think that alone would have been good enough for him to get the chapter MVP in my book. And the book was Goblet of Fire, if for the record. You're muted.
Sorry, my other computer froze, so I'm scrambling. We're good. Okay. I said nothing important. But I think it's really interesting that your MVP is the person who did my quotes. My runner-up did your quote. It's Hagrid.
Absolutely. Well,
because he also gave really good advice and was very like, this is the way it is, and we're going to be okay. Like, we're going to be together. We're going to take it as it comes. Like, it is what it is, and it's okay. And not in a judgy way, but in a supportive way. Go, Hagrid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think we've had that a couple times where we've swapped the lines and characters, which I think goes to show how much we think similarly, I think, but at the same time, how good those characters are in those chapters. It's reaffirmation on our picks.
Yes, that's true. Hey, I think we're done now.
Yep, that's it. See ya.
Okay. Oh, except that we have to tell people where to find us.
I've just meant we're done with book 4.
We are done with book 4, but that doesn't mean we're done, because first of all, we want you to find out, we want you to follow us on social media, right? That's like a big one. So find us on Twitter, find us on Instagram at Not Named Podcast. We have a website called thepodcastthat@gmail.com. You can, that's our email, and the website is thepodcastthat.com. So send us your owls, send us your questions, check out our website.
Yeah, definitely check us out on Instagram, because I'm feuding with Twitter right now. So check us out on Instagram. And
I'm not feuding with Twitter.
I didn't try to. But yeah.
I'm just writing very carefully worded responses to your feud.
Oh, but please do subscribe, like, and rate. Leave comments on iTunes for us. We really appreciate the feedback that we've been getting from you guys. It's really fun to hear. Also, make sure you subscribe on YouTube. Make sure you go and subscribe to the Podcast That family of podcasts on YouTube. Hit that notification bell, because you're going to start getting these live streams in future, and also other shows from our network all on that channel. So right now, go, if you watch us on YouTube, to the Podcast That family of podcasts YouTube channel and subscribe today. You can also listen to all of our shows on Radio Public. They have an Android app and an iOS app that's pretty user-friendly, and it truly does give us a nice little kickback just for you listening like you already are. So please do that, and we truly appreciate it. And you can listen to us on Spotify. Check us out on Spotify. From the chat, Alicia Kingston, thanks for the shout-out on that, because you can find all of our shows on the Podcast That family of podcasts on Spotify. It's a true everything. It's the only place right now that, aside from the YouTube channel, you can get everything chronologically in order, is on Spotify from all of our shows combined. So check that out too.
I use Spotify for everything I do pretty much all the time anyway. It's like my family's go-to for anything. So
we should really start plugging that more often.
We should. Go to Spotify.
Use Spotify. I love Spotify. I'm a premium member. I love Spotify.
Yeah.
And Audible. I love both of them.
All right. So we will be coming back. I'm not sure if it's next week or in 2 weeks. We might take a 2-week break. You'll find out. It'll be a surprise. We'll come back. And we have 2 special episodes coming. So not released on the same day, but week to week, back to back. So probably a week off and then 2 weeks of cool episodes. The first one will be our end of book recap, right? So we'll have Benji giving us some bad guy breadcrumbs. We'll have Riley back with more time to get his first time reader responses to those last 2 chapters. We'll have Lorelai and all her teenage angsty glory talking about chapters 36 and 37. We'll have we'll also have somewhere in there our last unrestricted section will be available as well. Then the extra special, my super favorite moment of every book, the end of book spectacular, where we bring the entire Podcast That team in for all of our superlatives, huge amounts. We've got trivia, we've got favorite chapter, favorite character, least favorite of those things, all kinds of good stuff going on. So make sure you keep an eye out for those episodes coming up shortly.
And don't forget about the movie commentary.
Oh, the movie commentary. Okay, but that's less fun and more of a, I just have to keep Luke breathing, but it'll be great.
It'll be great. It'll be awesome and stuff.
I won't be upset by the poor visual effects at all.
Well, we're excited to see you then, and until then, stay imaginary.
Thanks.